Rhonda, keep on going.
Do you want it? I have it, if you want mine.
Here it is.
Are you looking for this too?
You got it.
Is this over here?
The one before that to it.
Okay, I think I got it.
No, you got it.
Yep, it's that one and the one I think it's probably in front of it. You see?
That's this one? Oh, no.
No, it's this one. Yep,
Okay.
it's that one. And then there's, right behind it is probably this one too, that she gave us. So, thank you, sir. It looks so much better in plain.
Well, first of all, if you go to the sheet that was, that has at the very top, it says safety forces and services per home versus property tax. What we essentially did there is we took what it cost us to operate the police department in 2015 with dispatch service, and we put a total of that, same with fire and dispatch service for their portion of the dispatching. Then we put the service department, and then we came up with a total for all of that, which comes out to $9,959,426.37. So you see that? And so then what we did is we said, okay, homes within our city are 4,545 homes. That's how many we have. So we divided that into the total operating cost of police, fire, and service, which then gave us a figure of $2,191.29. You may be asking why we did this, because it's so often that we are trying to figure out what it costs us to operate in front of an individual home in the city. So then we applied a cost of what it costs to pave in front of an individual home. And that cost came out to approximately $800 for 100 foot of frontage in front of a home. And that's just one side of the street, by the way. So that total cost to maintain in front of that home is $2,991.29.
2994.
$2,991.29. So then we put the property tax received from an average $150,000 home, which is an 8.9 mils, and that is about $467.25.
That's what we get today.
That's what we get today
Okay.
for every single home. That is an average of $150,000 home, which is the average in some of the older neighborhoods.
Some of the newer areas it's more. Some
It's
of the
obviously in the older and newer areas, yeah, it's.
It's a median number of some kind?
This is a median number, we
So the
plugged in a
average
median
is-
number.
Okay.
So the difference is approximately $2,524 that it cost us per home to provide those services. Okay? So then when you take the 4,545 and you multiply that into that 2524, because you're now backing out the actual tax that you're getting by way of real estate, it shows that the city is underfunded of about $11,471,775.12. $11,471,775.12. Now the income tax that's collected in the city, which is then, we actually applied that, which is a $7,514,806.94. That shows that there is still remaining underfunded of $3,956,968. The reason we want to show you these numbers is so that you can get an idea of how much the city is subsidizing each and every home of the city, because we have not had a real estate increase since the 60s. We're essentially at the same number that we were back in the 60s on the real estate side. So what does drive our engine? Our engine is driven by the income tax dollars and the payroll tax. which is the $7 million. But you can see that we're still underfunded by that almost close to $4 million. So then, she wanted to show, or at least want to put together, that if we had to increase the millage, for instance, from where we're currently at to almost double, that would generate, there would be a 15.1 mils, that would be 792.75 would be the additional cost, and the difference would be 325.50, the difference in the increase. Which then would bring us down to we'd still have an undershot of unfunding remaining if you go all the way to the bottom line of $2,447,570.
So is this saying to me if I double the millage?
Yeah, if you even double
I'm
the
still
millage, you're still
underfunded
gonna
by
be
2.4.
underfunded,
Okay.
okay? So then we thought about, well, let's look at then the other aspect of that, and that would be, let's look at the other various possibilities. Let's talk about a 25% increase in the income tax. That generates approximately $1 million annually. Talk about 50%, that would be $2 million, obviously. Talk about a 0.25% reduction in tax credit from 100 to 75, that would generate approximately $1,265,047. A 50% would be obviously double that, which would be $2,530,095. And then the 6.2 mil levy, if you put that on, that would generate $2.5 million.
Now, if I do the increasing income tax, let's take the first one, 25%, but I don't give credit for anything above 2. That's what the 1 is, 1 million? That's with no credit for
That's still 100% reciprocity credit. You still have
up to 2 1/4 or only up to 2?
Well, this is currently, if you're asking what we're, give me your question.
On this 25% increase, right now I have 100% gross,
Correct.
and I can't say that word.
Reciprocity.
Thank you. Altogether, I can't say that word. So up to 2%, I have that. If I increase by 25%, are you
Still have
also going to increase
No, the credit still remains at 100%.
at
So,
2%?
At 2%.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Joe,
the, yeah, thank you.
just a question, and you pointed that out, that doesn't make, these numbers don't make sense, and that may, to me, I'm not being critical, because if we're increasing the income tax, but not increasing the credit, you say we're only getting $1 million, but if we're decreasing the credit by 25%, which affects less taxpayer, let me finish, less taxpayers, it's a greater number, 1.2 million. I don't think that makes sense.
You're looking at this by, these are just showing you what those numbers would generate if we were to do each and every one of those, or just one.
I understand.
So are you looking at them on an individual basis?
Yeah,
or-
I'm looking at, okay, let's say we're gonna increase taxes by, income tax by 0.25%,
Right.
that's $1 million. Okay, I'll accept it. But then you say, well, okay, let's don't do that. Let's reduce the tax credit from 100% to 25%, which is a 25%, or a 0.25 reduction.
So 75% instead of 100.
Right, but that creates an extra $265,000, but not everybody who pays taxes works outside of the city. That only affects those people. That doesn't make sense. It should be the same or.
No, it's
Let
not.
me,
Yeah.
I'll see if I can answer it for you, because it's actually you're paying 0.5 to make up, because 75% the city would reimburse 1.5. So you would have to make up to 2%. So you'd actually be paying more, and it's less people that work outside the city, so that's why the number's different. Does that make sense?
Right, well, that's why I'm saying that, since less people work outside of the city.
But
Let me
they're
finish.
paying more.
What do you mean they pay more?
They're paying 0.5%.
No, some of them are paying 2%. Most
No, they
people-
would make up, it'd just be 0.5%, because the reciprocity would be to 1.5.
Yeah, so I'm paying
And they
2%.
would have to pay to 2.
Right,
And
I'd
so
be
it would
paying
be-
2% to Cleveland,
Right.
as I do today, but I'd also be paying 1/4% or 0.5% to Macedonia because I've lost the credit that goes against my 2. Right now, I get a credit for 2. Tomorrow I'm gonna get a credit for 3/4 of that, so I still gotta pay Cleveland, but now I'm paying more.
But
When it's 2, a quarter is 50. Is that, it's 50, 100, 150, 200. So when you take away a quarter, you're at 1.5
Yeah,
tax
I think
credit.
he understands what you're saying, I just,
So you're actually making up more.
Let's explain it for Dave, hold on. Are you okay, Dave?
No, I'm
It's your
fine, with
question, so-
no, I'm fine, let's just go on.
Well, let me just kind of elaborate a little bit more here. The only reason we put these various scenarios together is so you can see the various options. These are just options. There's 25, 50%, 25 reduction, 50% reduction, 6.2 mil levy. These are just points that I'm bringing to the table so you can have an idea of what we need to do. Now, if you said, how can we attack $20 million? How do you attack $20 million in road repair that you need to do?
Is that 20 million a year, 20 million's over 20 years?
Well, $20 million of roads need repaired right now in the city. So I mean, how do you attack $20 million in roads and get them?
we're not gonna do it in 1 year.
I know you're
We
not
have
gonna
an
do it in
overall
1
plan.
But the idea would be is you gotta have a source of revenue that's
I
being
agree.
generated so you can help retire debt.
I
So you
understand.
may not take the entire, let's assume that you had $2 million coming in, flowing in. You may take and say, okay, we're gonna set aside $500,000 a year just to do our ongoing maintenance of all of our streets, meaning we're gonna go out and do sealing of crack sealing and what have you, and we're gonna take the other $1.5 million and we're going to put them into a note form and go out and do X amount of roads that we can possibly do. And roll them over every 5 years. Now, that may be how we have to tackle this, because we're never going to have enough money to take down $20 million at one given
Well,
time.
So
no.
what's your, if I could just ask, of the options presented there, if you had your choice, which would be the one you would prefer?
Well, here's what I'm thinking, is that we obviously need to get ahead of the curve, and it's gonna take the city a long time to get there. We probably should have been doing this probably 10 years ago.
We should have been.
We should have been implementing this type of program. My suggestion is that we go after the 0.5% with a drop-off of 0.25% after a 5-year period, or after a 3-year period, or whatever we think the number could work, and maintain 0.25% from now until the cows come home for nothing more than earmarked money for roads. Because otherwise, you're never gonna get caught up in this city. You're gonna constantly be chasing your tail. And
We're
it's a
gonna-
problem.
Let me just say a couple things about this. The 7.5 million that you're looking at here is, at 2%, we're collecting around 8.4 to 8.6 million. That's what we're collecting. Right now, we have funneled 1 million of that towards the recreation center building and the associated stuff. That's gonna go away. We can choose that to go away, and we can say, okay, so the 0.25% that was going to the buildings here, which is basically, if you add together what the debt was on the rec center building and the debt on this building, it was about $1,065,000. And if you say, okay, we're gonna take a 0.25%, we're gonna dedicate it to capital improvements, majority on roads, some other things will be done also, like in the parks and rec, and also some things will be done in stormwater. Hopefully we'll get something from this NEORSD deal, otherwise it's kind of like, we can't. But I'm saying is, we're not going to correct this issue with anything that we can do that makes sense here. We've got $80,000 per household income. That's the median income in Macedonia. We, I believe, needed to have redirected money towards the roads a long time ago. We didn't do that because of the debt we had on these two buildings.